All right, I'm about to go live now. Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Ladies and gentlemen, Julius Randle agrees to sign an extension of $117 million with the New York Knicks. And that's big. It's big for Julius Randle. It's about $30 million a year, roughly. But it's even bigger for the New York Knicks. Because Julius Randle, he could have tested himself in free agency next year and possibly signed a contract worth up to $200 million. If he had the same kind of season, Julius Randle has the same kind of season, repeats the season he had in 2020, 2021, he'd be up for that type of a contract in 2022. But he chose to sign an extension with the New York Knicks, which I didn't think he was going to do, and play his prime years in New York. Now, what's that mean for the New York Knicks as far as how they're building and structuring this team? That's what we're going to talk about right now. I got G-Mo here with me, and we're going to break this thing down, ladies and gentlemen, and get into some Knicks talk. G-Mo, what's going on with you, man? Tell me your thoughts.
It's a great deal for the Knicks, man. Julius Randle not fishing for the max, I think was good on his part to kind of realize that, it may have been a battle to do that. Also very, I would say sacrificial, but very, very team player like on his end, right? To give us that flexibility. What is he basically forewent about what 80 million?
Yeah.
They could have possibly had. He's looking to become, not saying he wasn't. He's looking to be that foundational piece to this team, and him doing that. I mean, that also shows some of these younger players too, man. I mean, he's had a solid impact on guys like IQ, Obi. When you talk about working out in the gym and that stuff, and not him taking less money. He put his money where his mouth was in terms of what he wants to build this team. So I think it's a great deal. I think that it's great on his part, man. And, I think he's ready for this team to grow. He wants to be here in the future, see some more success. So, yeah, great deal by the Knicks and great deal by Julius Randle.
Yeah. I didn't think he was going to sign a contract extension. I thought he was going to bet on himself, try to repeat the season that he had last year, go into free agency next summer and try to, get a $200 million contract.
That is, I agree with you because you see it all around in the NBA with these guys. They have a chance to take the money. All the stuff they talk about, I'm a team player. I want to go to contender. They'll stay with bad teams and take the money and whatnot. But Julius Randle put his money where his mouth is. Now, again, before someone says I'm negative, I'm just saying the dark side of it because I was saying last year, I just hope he's not injured or something like that. I doubt it. Knock on wood. But I mean, look, it's also good for him in the future, right? I mean, he had Leon Rose and Worldwide West speak to him last year when he was having issues with the team or issues, hardships last season. And he's probably building something for the future. I don't know what he's going to do in the future, but when you do these type of things, I'm pretty sure Leon Rose is going to have him somewhere in the back end. I might be going way overboard, but
but you're right though. When you do these type of things, then people respect it and they say, you know what, we're going to take care of you when the time is right. Exactly. when if you're still here with the New York Knicks and you're on your last leg, you're 36, you're 37 years old, we're going to make sure we take care of you. San Antonio did it with Manu Ginobili.
Right. Yes.
Right? They did it with Manu Ginobili. You know what I mean? They make sure that they took care of him. And, that's how it works sometimes. You make sure you take care of you guys. Nate, what does this mean for the Knicks going forward? What do you think it means for the Knicks?
Well, I mean, you've basically said that he's going to be your number one guy, whether or not you agree with it or not. you're paying him like a number one. So the expectation is that this guy is going to play like a number one. And I'm going to be a devil's advocate here and say that I sure as hell hope that he plays harder and better than he played in the playoffs. Because if he struggles in the beginning of the season, along with struggling in the playoffs, we're going to be a little bit wary because, you know, we pay these players and we expect them to elevate their game and not go down. I think Julius Randle can do that. I think Julius Randle is a team player. I think he works his butt off. I think he's going to work his contract. I don't think he's going to be like an Anthony Davis and just kind of take the money and then just stop playing. I really believe that Julius Randle is going to elevate his game, but I'm a little wary about giving these big contracts to these guys who really aren't number ones, in my opinion, then seeing how they play after that.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about that. Him taking this extension, about $29.5 million a year, if you break it down evenly over 4 years. We don't know how the contract's going to be structured. But number ones in this league are now making $40 million a year.
True.
Right? That's a big difference. Each year, these guys are making more and more money. If he would have made $200 million, if he would have signed a contract next summer for $200 million for 4 years, $200 million, right? Then, he'd be making $46 million a year or something like that. That's number one money.
But that's superstar money, in my opinion. I mean, because Steph Curry is making the most right now at $45 million.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying to you. $29.5 million in today's NBA may not be number one money.
Not at all.
Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard opted out of his contract so that he can probably make $40 million a year. That's number one money. You understand what I'm saying?
But you are paying him as a number one, wouldn't you agree?
No, you're paying him as the number one on this team, but it doesn't mean he's the number one on a championship team. It doesn't mean
No.
Hold up.
He's on number one.
It doesn't mean that someone doesn't come to this team that's better than him and can and makes more money. I think it's a good contract for the Knicks. I think it solidifies the 4 spot. Then of course there's going to be questions about Obi Toppin, and what do the Knicks do with Obi Toppin now? But for the time being, Obi Toppin was going to be a backup next year. Was going to be a backup the year after that. If he develop to be, a starting power forward, we'll see. But for the next few years, we'll probably have him. Well, not probably. He's going to be the backup 4 spot to Julius Randle. Now, with that contract, and I don't want to put this out in the air, but just being realistic with that contract, it's a tradable contract if it came to that. I think Julius Randle wants to retire Nick. Right? Part of the reason why he wanted to accept the extension is because he wanted to, again, play his prime years in New York. He wanted to give the team cap flexibility so that they can add players in the future, because now they have that ability. They're not worried about paying Julius Randle $40 million. So they have the ability going forward to add more players, right? And, to add a star, to make the team deeper. And they chose stability, which is something the Knicks haven't had in a very long time. They chose stability over instability. You know what I mean? And you can see it throughout this free agency. They brought back a bunch of guys. They added a couple of pieces in areas that we were weak as far as the point guard spot and the wing spot, Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier. And now they locked down Julius Randle, and that tells the team, hey, we're stable. We're building on the foundation that we had, and we trust that you guys are going to, I don't want to say you guys, but we're going to take this to another level with the players that we have here. And I think that's what it means. That's the message it sends to the team, the message it sends to the fans, the message it sends to the league. And I think now, even more, free agents will look at the team and say, okay, they have something stable going, because you got Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker for the next 2 years. You got Julius Randle for the next 4 years, Evan Fournier for the next 3 to 4 years, right? And so if they perform well, they go out and they have a good season, they win 50 games. Now teams are looking and saying, or free agents are looking and saying, this might be something that I can be a part of.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think I said in the last time we talked that the Knicks, the reason why they signed a 3-year deal to Nerlens and Burks is because they want to build that chemistry. They want to build that team. So if they do make a trade for a superstar or a star, that player looks at that team and says, hey, there's good pieces here that I can go rock with. Kind of like what LaMelo Ball did with the Bulls. You know, there was pieces already there. Hey, I can make this team better. So instead of the Knicks only having 6 players, that's not attractive, you know, and before it didn't have Randle on their contract for a longer, they didn't know they're going to keep him or not. So there's a lot of confusion there as far as what the Knicks are trying to do. Now it's more clear that they're trying to build the foundation with those players that they offered 3 to 4 year deals with. And then they have a bunch of young guys that they want to keep building up. So, yeah, it becomes a more lucrative and more attractive team for free agents to look at. I totally agree with you, or even a trade. And you have more assets to use for a big trade if you want to bring back a Dame Lillard or something like that. Now you have 2 big contracts with Fournier and Randle that you can throw in the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Guillermo, how are you seeing it long term? Do you feel like the Knicks, you know, made things just a little bit more stable for themselves, for their players, and for free agents to look at the team?
I'll say this with Julius. Well, it definitely provides a lot more stability. One, gives you flexibility to get other guys in the future. Obviously, RJ Barrett will be coming out. And real quick, is he the last guy to get extended since Carmelo?
Who? Julius Randle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think he's the last guy. Yeah.
Just the good players we had.
Carmelo had 1.5 million, 5 years. So it does help. I mean, in this league, this is given how like the CBA and how the contracts are basically set for teams to keep their players. I still think we have a ways to go before players are truly convinced to say, yo, I want to go and play with the Knicks, like these top level players. So we have to, again, cultivate our own. We have to pick up the C's and the B's in terms of levels of free agents to kind of build off that. And obviously, if Kemba's healthy enough, Evan Fournier could fit in this team. Obviously, that helps the profile. You could get into the second round. You move up year in, year out. Definitely Julius Randle provides a foundation of play. You have your so-called forward point, quasi-point center, big man, whatever you want to call him, for the future. Again, last year, given what we had last year, we just didn't have a lot of talent. So bringing on guys like Evan Fournier, who's a better scorer than say Bullock, even Kemba Walker was probably our best point guard we've had in a while. Expand Julius Randle's game, and that might even make Julius Randle even look better. Less pressure on him on the ball. His stats may dip, but his impact may be a lot higher.
Right.
And again, we talked about this 2 years ago. So we talk about building a foundation and a culture. And if you have a guy like Julius Randle who, they look at him, he's not the highest paid, but what you're doing now is that he's probably your most important player. And he's a guy that these other young guys are following after, your IQs, your Obis, in some extent RJ Barrett. I mean, you're gonna cultivate a winning culture. You're gonna get to the second round based off of what you have now, even some of the guys you drafted. I mean, so I think it's a plus multiplier to have Julius Randle here. I'm not sure about the superstars yet. I think there's a ways to go. And on the real conspiracy, I really just think that there's a persona non grata on freaking James Dolan. But if we win, maybe that helps out a little bit more. But it's definitely a plus. But I don't think we're there yet where we could pull the top level. But I'll say this real quick. Sorry to talk so much. I do think the big push is for Zion. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan, but I'm just saying I think the big push is for Zion. And this comes from Suter Hinton Murphy. He said this, that Zion might be the first guy. Well, no, I guess KP didn't take his either, but he might be the first like big number 1 draft pick, so-called star, superstar, you want to call him, whatever, that might not take his restricted free agent, his extension in a few years. That he might forego that to come over to the Knicks. Now, I think that's what the front office is trying to get up for. Again, this is all just conjecture, but I think that's what they're aiming for. If that happens, then and obviously Zion, I don't know how it's going to work with Zion and Randle. Maybe play Randle as a small five, but if you could bring that star power, I think that might be like the real shift regarding how people view the Knicks.
Having Zion and Randle.
Again, I'm just saying. I think that the free that also goes to maybe the Randle deal. I'm not, guys. Before somebody says you're being negative, stop. I'm just saying that in one instance they may have created this deal, and it's possibly a benefit for them to say, "Hey, we got an affordable contract, but in a few years we're going for the big fish." And I'm not poo-pooing. I'm just saying what the front office could be thinking. You're stacking up all these picks. And I know everybody says they like to play in the guard. I know all that garbage. I know we've been duped before. People, I love the guard. I'm just saying that Zion Williamson could be that big fish to kind of get, and it definitely does help. Now I know Randle is their boy. He's cool. So I'm just saying there's maybe 20-30% possibility they could be doing that, and the Randle contract helps them. Or you play Randle small five, you have Zion at the 4, and you just make stars work. Screw it. Again, don't think that far because people say, "Oh, you're being negative." I'm not. I'm just saying that.
Randle and Zion to me,
to be a contender, we need a star.
Well, I just think Randle and Zion together would be. I don't know how it would work. I think it'd be clumsy, a little bit.
Bad defense.
I think that.
You think they care about? No?
I think that one thing that it does for the Knicks with Julius Randle, it begins the trend of players saying, okay, I'll take a little bit less to make sure that we can build a team. He's the first one to do it, right? The Knicks committed to him. He committed to the Knicks. So now when the next person is up for their contract extension, and you know what? Randle did it. Let me show my commitment to this team as well. I could take a couple of million off of my contract or whatever it is to make sure that we can build a contender here, and then it goes on down the line. That's the way it happened in San Antonio, right? Tim Duncan was one of the first guys to do it. And then other guys followed suit.
Example.
So hopefully with Julius Randle doing it, he's leaving possibly leaving $80 million on the table. You know what I mean? So it does show his commitment to the Knicks and to the city. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it would be clearly you have to do what you got to do when you're in the NBA. For Julius Randle, it would probably feel like a slap in the face if they traded him.
Yeah.
After taking,
and it would look bad on the Knicks.
After possibly taking the $80 million, if he comes out and performs next season the way he did this last season, and then the Knicks trade him, that would look like a slap in the face. I would be pissed off myself. I'm talking about as a fan. I'd be kind of pissed off. Like, that's dirty.
I don't disagree. And again, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But I will say this. Teams have made shiesty deals before where they've traded off beloved players. And if you win, that winning is a nice tissue to wipe away your tears. I'm just saying, teams always look to get better. This would not be the first where a guy who's a beloved hero in the so-called maybe the prime, near the whatever, gets traded off for better assets, and the team is looking ahead to say, hey, so I'm just saying it's a business. As much as you're it's still a business. So
yeah, I get it.
Tim, I got a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned Obi Toppin. So with this extension, this pretty much, in my opinion, gives the writing on the wall for Obi that he's going to be a backup for the next four years. Randle either.
They may not even view him as a starter even in the next 4 years. Who knows?
Right.
But I think,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, when you have talent, right now Julius Randle is the better player by far. Obi Toppin has a ways to go. Every team has players that are budding, and you think, well, could this guy be the starter one day? Could he be the starter one day? Every team has players like that. And that's how you build a deep team. You know what I'm saying? So, you let Obi rock, and one day he'll be a free agent, and he'll think to himself, I can be a starter somewhere. And if he's still behind Julius Randle, then he'll go someplace else and try to be the starter. Like that's how the NBA works. Right
Well, I was
now,
gonna
he's going
ask
to be the
you
backup.
Well, I was going to ask you for the right deal. Do you think they should maybe try to trade him and try to get a veteran big to back up Randall? Or you think they just rock with Obi?
I think you just rock with Obi right now. Someone asked me last night. I was on Divine's show last night. They said, "Do you think the Knicks make any more roster changes?" At this point right now, I think we rock with what we have, right? Because they like I said, they chose stability. They brought back players. They chose stability. Now with Julius Randle extension, they chose more stability. So I think you rock with what you got right now. You know what I'm saying? Instead of who are you going to get out there? Now, Kelly Oubre? You're going to bring Kelly Oubre in? Right? And if you do bring him in, now, okay, who gets nixed out of the lineup? Emmanuel Quickly, Evan Fournier, Alec Burks. I don't know. So I think right now you just kind of rock with what you have, see where they go when you get to the trade deadline. See what's going on when you get to the trade deadline, see who's available at the trade deadline, and look and see what it is that you want to do. Yeah, I think
we do need size at the wing position because we have I know RJ back. I guess he's a 2 that's playing at the wing now, I guess, or whichever one, however.
Fournier's going to play.
Burks is 6'5". I know people may not like him, but I wouldn't mind Oubre on this team, and for cheap, obviously stupid cheap because he's not even getting. I think he kind of overplayed the market, but I wouldn't mind having Oubre on this team. And again, to me, I see Oubre as a defensive guy, can play off the ball, can run the floor. And his only thing is that some decision making and some shooting. But if you look at what he did with the Warriors, I know he had that awful, terrible start to his season. But the coaches, whatever, they liked him. They thought he was progressing. He had that good year with Phoenix. I feel like he's just one of those weird guys where it's he's gonna hit one of these days, and and people are gonna be like, oh man, I wish we had Oubre. So if the Knicks could get, I don't know exactly what our catch situation is right now, but if you could have him on a dirt cheap, have him play maybe a 1 year deal, maybe in a 1+1 or something like that. I doubt it. He's probably going to bet himself just take the 1 year deal. I would not mind having him be a demon off the bench because I know same with Burks, but
that's my question. I wouldn't mind Kelly Oubre. I actually thought Kelly Oubre was going to end up a Knick this summer.
Yeah,
right. I did. I thought he was going to be a Knick. But who does he play? Who does he play in front of? Do you take out Alec Burks? Alec Burks can shoot the basketball, right? That's one. We all talk about how the Knicks need shooting, right? Which is one of the reasons why I wasn't big on DeMar DeRozan becoming a Knick, right? And I was okay with Evan Fournier, even though people, are like, oh, DeMar DeRozan is the better player. To me, Evan Fournier fits better with what the Knicks are trying to do, right? Especially when you have a center and Mitchell Robinson who doesn't spread the floor at all, right? You need as many shooters in that lineup as possible. Last year, for the entire season, we went with 2 guys in the lineup that can't shoot threes. Now we got 4 guys in the lineup that can shoot threes, and Mitchell Robinson is going to do what he does. But when you look at the backup, when you look at the bench, Derrick Rose, he's been, last year he shot it well from the 3-point line. Emmanuel Quickly shot it well. Alec Burks can shoot. Okay, Obi Toppin can shoot. Nerlens Noel can't. So you got 4 guys in that lineup that can shoot. Nerlens Noel can't. He's not a 3-point shooting center.
All right.
If you input Kelly Oubre, now you're bringing in another guy he's capable. I'm not going to say he's not capable. He's capable of shooting the 3, but he's not going to be a knockdown 3-point shooter. And we got 3-point shooters in that lineup, and I like having those 3-point shooters in the lineup. And then even in your situational lineup, you got guys that can knock down the 3.
Mm-hmm.
So where does Kelly Oubre fit in that, and who does he knock out? Because I could see, I'm be honest with you, I could see, and people will be mad if Emmanuel Quickly is knocked out of the lineup for Kelly Oubre, but I could see Derrick Rose, Alec Burks at the 2, Kelly Oubre at the 3, Obi Toppin at the 4, Nerlens Noel at the 5, because now you have a bigger lineup coming off the bench. I don't think that Tom Thibodeau is going to go 11 deep.
This is so weird, man, because I agree with you, but let's be honest, Sim. Obi Toppin on his team, he is stuck. Like, what is his role going forward, right? I'm not hating on Obi Toppin because now he's legit stuck, and he's not going to develop unless he's playing 30 minutes, 35 minutes off the bench. You know what I mean? And he's running with Derrick Rose. I get it, but
He's
if
just
you
gonna
get
help
more
spell
value,
Randle. It's really the only role
yeah,
right now.
but even then, he's not really a direct Randle. Like, oh, I'm spelling Rand. I know what you're saying, Nate. Would Obi give us more value being put in a package for another player? Like, I know
That's what I'm saying, man.
I would love to see Miles Turner in this team, right? I guess now, I mean, I'm just saying, I haven't thought of the money and all that stuff, but I would love to see Miles. So I think he's 18 million or something like that, 18.5. I'm not sure Carl's going to give him up, but I feel like a Randle and Turner combination with saying having Oubre as your bench demon, him and Rose just running the floor, and Nones well playing the big man role to the basket.
So you'd want the bench to be small then, because you'd have Rose, you'd have Emmanuel Quickly, Kelly Oubre, Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel.
But your bench, I mean, Oubre is what, 6'8"? You know what I mean, yeah, I guess you'd be playing the power forward, you'd be fairly small. But he plays good enough defense. You know, he's long with the width. Nones well is what, 7 foot, but I know he's kind of small, whatever. Obi Toppin doesn't really provide. No, granted, he's improved. He proved last year defensively, his footwork got a lot better from when he came from college, but he doesn't provide you like this overwhelming, size at that position where it's like, you have to fear him. I mean, he's good on the help defense at times, but I'm saying I'm just putting out there, would Obi Toppin give us more value versus just trying to make it work? And then he's always this weird kind of, he doesn't maybe not get enough minutes, not enough, because he needs to be put in a place where he could get that development. Maybe he plays out with Sabonis. Sabonis could play more inside like he did a few years ago, even though last year he actually improved playing more outside. Have Obi play all around the floor. He could start for that team, even though I don't know necessarily if they're rebuilding yet. Maybe if Brogdon and those guys don't come back healthy, maybe they just say, hey, let's rebuild. Let's just get talent on the team. So
I don't know. I mean, I like. I'm not opposed to trading Obi at all, but I do like the difference in style of play that he brings because it allows us to switch up the offense a little bit. He plays with more speed. He has the ability to bring some lightning to the game with a monster dunk or whatever it is. So I like the change up with him in the game. When he comes in, and it can change up. It could just be a different flow to the basketball game than having someone who's just like, Julius Randle. I just like that switch up and that flow at that position, for the minutes that he gives us. And who knows what, how many minutes those are going to be this season. But I do like that switch up. I think it's good for the team. And it adds some variation to the offense. Now we should have a lot more variation to the offense this year. So I don't know. We'll see. Do you think Leon Rose is done, or do you think there's more moves to be made? Everyone keeps talking about Miles Turner, and I would love to have Miles Turner on his team. Not gonna lie about it. I think that he would, fit well. He would work well. I mean, like people that we're bringing in so far, I think are guys that Tom Thibodeau are going to work well with Tom Thibodeau. I think Kemba's going to work great with Tom Thibodeau, right? Him and Derrick Rose are like, kind of, pretty similar players. I think he's going to work well with Tom Thibodeau. I think Evan Fournier is going to respond to Tom Thibodeau. He played for Steve Clifford, similar type of guys. I think he'll respond to Tom Thibodeau. I think Miles Turner would really respond to Tom Thibodeau.
I think Miles Turner would love playing with Tom Thibodeau. I would say this: Evan Fournier is interesting because he'd work with Steve Clifford, who's a lot more expensive in the offense. I will like to see, because again, Fournier is, he's, even though people say he's not an ISO player like that. I think that's the wrong way to put it. But I think that you do see spurts where he's heavy on the ball, and obviously people watching Team France now, he's killing it these past few games. So he could respond. I just wonder how he and Randle. I mean, because Randle taking his deal too, it sucks because you have to look at it and say, okay, Randle's taking his deal. He is the so-called top dog. Will he take that next step to say, okay, let me dip my stats and make the guys around me better? It may not show up in the sheets, the stat sheets.
Mm-hmm.
The sheets, my bad. The stat sheets. But it makes him. I think I'm bringing Ron Ivory. My bad. I'm sorry. My bad.
In the sheets, Ron Ivory. I don't know what's going on.
Right, that's a song in between the sheets.
I know. I'm just saying. In between the sheets, Ron Ivory.
Yeah, I see. You see what's.
I don't know what Kendra Randle feels about this.
All right. No disrespect, Mrs. Randle. No disrespect to the family, but I am interested. Like Kemba Walker, I know people are gonna kill me for this. I think Kemba Walker, healthy, would love Tom Thibodeau. Absolute demon dog. But because of the injury, if you watched him, he wasn't as aggressive as in previous years. So they're gonna have to come to like an agreement where you kind of have to pull back some of that with what's the name on Tom Thibodeau and playing him too hard, blah blah. On the flip side, I guess Kemba has to dog it some games because we're gonna need him if we I'm assuming we're gonna get to the playoffs. We're gonna need him on the playoffs, so they have to pull back on the minutes. So I think all these guys, they can fit with Tom Thibodeau. You are giving him a lot to kind of work with regarding like some new personalities and whatnot. But you do have Derrick Rose, you do have Randle there, you do have RJ, you do have guys from the previous year there to kind of strengthen the culture that was building from last year. So I think it could work. It's just all about health this year. Honestly, guys, really all about health. These guys.
Yeah. So
the way I look at it is that when you talk about Kemba and a guy like Fournier, they're bucket getters. They're not guys afraid to shoot.
I don't know what happened with Nate. We lost your sound, Nate. We can't hear you. We lost your sound. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, never meant for this to be a super long show. We just wanted to, talk about it really quick. I am preparing for another show with Andy coming up in about an hour and a half. We were going to talk about the rookies, but we're going to save that for a little bit later. We're going to talk a little bit more about the chemistry between Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier and how it could impact this team. We're going to talk about that a little bit. All right. And so be on the lookout for that about 3:30, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a good coach's corner to check in on. So Gmo, I appreciate the time, my man. Appreciate it. And I'll tell Kendra Walker, I'll tell.
I'm not trying to get yoked up by Randle.
I'll tell Kendra Randle, be cool, don't worry about it. She's safe.
No, man, Kendra, no, hey, we talking about,
Yeah, all right, man. No doubt.
Hit the like.
Ladies and gentlemen, Julius Randle. Ladies and gentlemen, Julius Randle signed or intends to sign a $117 million contract with the New York Knicks, extending his contract. And it's great news for the New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen. What's it mean for the Knicks? Cap flexibility. Got their starting power forward for the next few years. Julius Randle commits to the city, commits to the fans. Hopefully it's going to be a beautiful marriage, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you soon. I'm out.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.